Looking for tickets to the hottest shows, games, and events? Ticket Liquidator is your one-stop shop for great prices, no hassles, and guaranteed tickets. Since 2003, we've been connecting buyers and sellers, providing access to sold-out events at prices lower than most secondary market options. Whether it's sports, theater, or concerts, our massive nationwide network ensures you get the tickets you want, guaranteed. For the best seats at the biggest events, start with Ticket Liquidator today at ticketliquidator.com. That's TICKETLIQUIDATOR.com. Ticket Liquidator.
Farmhounds offers natural treats and chews made with quality products that support family farms, regenerative agriculture, and humane farming practices. Give your dog the best with wholesome, organic ingredients that promote health and happiness. Shop now at farmhounds.com.
This is a Rogue Media Network podcast.
Through the night, deep in the heart of Texas, the trailer park is nice and dark. Deep in the heart of Texas, that drinks his brew and he spits his chew. Deep in the heart of Texas, the TV blares but no one cares. Deep in the heart of Texas, here we go.
Well, hello there. How are you guys? Welcome to Bois, a King of the Hill podcast. I'm Mike.
And I am Rusty.
Hello, Rusty. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, Mike. Doing pretty good.
We had Mason out of the city today, and so we did this. We're doing this remotely, but these tend to turn out okay. So I feel pretty good about it.
They're usually great.
Yeah.
Also, we were on the news.
We were on the news.
Not for anything.
That was fun. We got reached out to by several people right after.
Not for any illegal activity or anything, but we were on the news.
No, it was of our own choosing. It wasn't someone else did not choose when we got to go on the news. Yeah. It was cool though. Yeah, we did the 4:00 show here in town and got reached out to by Sean, and I did not necessarily remember Sean that well, but I'm going to say something to you, Rusty, and you're going to know immediately who Sean is.
Okay.
On the front of Scruffy Murphy's, that guy that's got like this.
Oh, yeah.
That's Sean.
Oh, okay.
Sean.
Does he own Scruffy's?
He used to own Waterworks and he used to own Scruffy's. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And he's very Irish, very hard partier kind of guy. So that's
the name
why
Sean kind of gives it away there.
That's why Casey
Sean
and I knew
O'Malley.
him. Oh, he is very much like that. He's like, oh, I'm Sean, and I've been here for But anyway, he told this great story. And the story was that he used to own a place called the Waterworks. And the Waterworks is still, like the building is still there. Now, the place has been torn up many, many times. Hey, Artie, how are you, man? And Rusty, yes, it's on a Saturday. Mason is out of town. Anyway, he owned Waterworks. Waterworks is this big, think of it as like spaghetti warehouse, basically is what it was. Except inside they had a train car that you could eat in. That was the big deal here in town. And then if you go downstairs, there was a comedy club, music club down there. I would say that club down in the basement held maybe 50 people. I mean, it wasn't much. It was very small. But Sean told the story of Dale being a comedian there before he met Mike Judge. He used to come and do stand-up with him. And then one day, the guy's in Austin and meets Mike Judge over coffee, and history.
Yeah, that's pretty neat that connection exists. I figured Johnny being from Austin and spending most of his life in Austin, that there would have been that if there that he would have traveled up and down the I-35 corridor doing comedy. And we don't really have a comedy scene anymore here in town, unfortunately. But I imagined in my head that he would definitely have been in some of the earlier comedy stuff here in Waco.
Yeah, he he obviously came and did comedy here, which is pretty amazing, honestly. And for us to go on this goofy little 4 o'clock show, and then this guy to see it and take the time to email us, I mean, that was a big deal, and
Yeah, that was
I
pretty
really
cool.
appreciate it.
I hope we could have him on one day. That'd be awesome. To
Yeah, that would be
actually
cool.
hear some stories from. I'm sure he's got more stories than just what he typed up and told you.
I'm telling you, man, I think I could use his stories for 3 or 4 of my shows. You know, he's got some great stuff.
Yeah,
All
I
right,
imagine so.
this is an episode that doesn't get a lot of play, simply because it is the most weird, dark episode that King of the Hill ever did.
Yeah, it is. It's a very dark episode, and the funny thing is that it is based off of a George Bernard Shaw play, which was called Pigmalion, also the same title as this.
Yeah,
But in the play, it's a 1912 play. It's about a rich man who tries to take this common street urchin and transform her into a high society woman. Also similar to the I think it was a Hepburn movie where the rain in Spain falls
My Fair
mainly on the
Lady.
plain.
Yeah,
My Fair Lady. So it's kind of
Yeah.
got a similar theme to that too, but it's super dark. It's not like all, cheery and full of light. It's a pretty dark premise, like
Well,
the whole show.
Pygmalion also he's trying to make her a thing. You know, he's trying to make her a certain
Yeah, like a high
person.
society person. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's using his wits and his money to do it, and it's about that struggle. In this one, it's basically the same story. Honestly, it just has a lot more pigs in it.
Yeah, and actually, this one is the second Halloween episode. The first Halloween episode is season 2, episode 4, Halloween, and this one is the second one. But the production number on this is season 5, episode 23. So this got pushed back, and I imagine the dark and disturbing nature of it is why it got pushed back. But
it's so weird how they pushed it back too, because it aired January 12th. Which, I mean, you're only 2 months, but you're 2 months past Halloween. You know, it's just so weird to show it when they did. And that just shows you that I don't think Fox knew what they had. And they certainly didn't know how to produce this show or how to get.
I think that's probably what it was. It probably had to go through content filters and all that kind of stuff to make sure that it was good to air.
So this is King of the Hill, season 7, episode 9, or in the year of our Lord 5 ABE 23, Pygmalion, but this is spelled Pigmalion. It aired January 12th, 2003. The premise is Luanne is wooed by millionaire Trip Larsen, who has bizarre plans for her. This is directed by Dominic Pulsino and Clay Hall, which we know Clay Hall. The writers were Mike Judge, Greg Daniels, and Jonathan Collier. I think Jonathan Collier's gone on to write some stuff past this, is what it seems like to me. And again, like we say, this is the weirdest. It's all about the ending. The ending is the darkest one.
Yeah, actually, Jonathan Collier worked on Monk, The Simpsons, and Bones, and he also worked on Queer Duck the movie. If you've ever seen that,
have not.
It's
all right. So
it's an adult animated film. It's pretty funny. It's about a queer duck.
Yeah.
But Conan O'Brien's in it, Tim Curry, Mark Hamill, Andy Dick, David Duchovny. So it's got like a good
comedians,
all-star comedian cast. I want to say it was written by a guy named Mike Reese, is the guy that did it, and he's the guy who did screenplays for the Simpsons movie, but he was also a showrunner, a writer, and a producer for The Simpsons. So he worked on The Simpsons for a long time, and he also co-created The Critic.
Oh, I love
The Critic with John Lovitz.
Was the best. Yeah, John Lovitz as The Critic was the best. Hey, we've got a Mr. Lee Owl in here. Thanks for showing up. You and Rusty
Sweet,
and Artie.
caught a live one. Yeah, appreciate it, guys. And again, if you're in the audio only part of this chat, just remember that you can come and hang out with us on YouTube, and
Absolutely.
we encourage it. So if you're only listening to this by audio, don't forget you could go to youtube.com/@BWAAAKOTH and get the notification for when we go live.
Just hit
like
live.
everybody
hit
else
live, and
that's
then
with
hit
us.
that bell, and it'll let you know whenever we go live. So that will happen. All right, so we're starting at Rattlesnakes, which is a restaurant in town.
It is.
It looks a lot like Sugarfoot's to me, but it is called Rattlesnakes. We go inside. It's Bobby, Hank, Peg at the table. They've all got their menus, the big plastic menus, bunch of Halloween decor around, so we know what time of year it is. We start with Bobby. Something smells good, and then he sniffs the menu, which is the absolute right reaction. And he goes, "Oh, it's the menu. Ha, even the menu smells good at Rattlesnakes." I don't know what that means, but I'm assuming it smells like grease. We overhear someone in the back going, and just kind of yelling at somebody. And then Hank, not wanting to hear any of this, just looks at Peggy and goes, "Hey, Peggy, if I get the chicken fried chicken and you get the chicken fried steak, we can." She goes, "Just a moment. There's something I must take care of." And then she walks over to where this woman is yelling. We find out that she is yelling at Luanne. And this is her like shift leader or boss or whatever that's yelling at her. And Luanne says, "I do so know enough not to put a salad-sized fork in the spoon bin." And then the boss says, "Well, that fork didn't just walk along and hop in there by herself, did she?" She goes, "No, she couldn't have." I mean, this is the conversation they're having. Peggy, of course, being always helpful, comes up and says, "Excuse me, ma'am, why are you calling my niece a liar?" The boss says, "Luanne knows we have a way of doing things here at Rattlesnake. She also knows the consequences of not following that way." Peggy says, "You will not use threats with her." She goes, "And you will not tell me how to talk to my supervisees." She goes,
Supervisee.
and you have just lost yourself a waitress. She quits. She goes, "Well, now, wait a minute. I wasn't going to fire her." Peggy's like, "Too late for your apologies now, isn't it? Luanne, pick up your clothes and 3 onion loaves. We are going home."
The 3 onion loaves part was kind of funny.
3 onion loaves. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
I doubt
So
she's leaving with onion loaves.
They leave, and we're back at the Hills house. And again, we know what time of year it is because there's a giant pumpkin in their yard and a bunch of Halloween decorations like skeletons and stuff on their walls. And we are in Peggy's office. Peggy's on her Blueberry PC, and she's looking at the Arlen or the Annex of Arlen webpage, Learning Annex of Arlen webpage. And Luanne's sitting right behind her in the hall because there's often not enough room in Peggy's office / water closet. She says, "I probably wouldn't have lost my Rattlesnakes job if you hadn't said anything." Peggy, again, very helpful. "Exactly, but I won't be around forever to do everything for you. You have to learn to help yourself." She just cannot. She can't take a look at the bigger picture. She can't see that what she's doing is hurting Luanne, not helping. And Luanne says, "How did it help me to lose my job?" She goes, "I will leave you open. It will leave you open for new opportunities, such as the one that I'm about to present to you. The Learning Annex is offering a class on the joy of entrepreneurship. So I signed you up." She goes, "I would really be nice if sometimes you could ask me when you make decisions about my life." We get a huge pregnant pause as Peggy looks at her. And then Peggy turns and says, "You're right. Would you like to go at 7 or 9? She goes, And like she looks very content now because she's getting to make a decision.
Yeah.
She's like, 7. And then Peggy's like, "I'm sorry, that won't work for me." And that's the entirety of the conversation.
Yeah.
Now we're at the learning.
We got a chatter here, a new one.
Go for it.
Edel Candle, I guess it says, "Here's my Hank impression. Stop whacking off in my tool shed." And then Peggy is a see you next Tuesday. Peggy is a see you next Tuesday. I agree.
See you next Tuesday. Absolutely. You got that right. We are at the Learning Annex of Arlen. It is nighttime. They are in a big lecture hall, which I don't think they probably need in Arlen, but seems to be full. The teacher is up there at the podium saying, "A lot of you think Trip Larsen is the hog king of Arlen, but he wasn't born with that crown on his head. He's an entrepreneur, an innovator, and an inventor responsible for edibilizing 2 new parts of the pig." I just want to take a moment and recognize the word edibilizing. That's the biggest and most invented word I've heard today. So I love that
That is a
word,
good word. Yeah.
edibilizing. He
Edibilized.
walks up to the podium. Trip Larsen does. Just looks like a guy in a suit, you know. He says, thank you. My great-grandfather started Larsen Pork Products with little more than 3 pigs and a killing hammer. What a wonderful story. Today, I'm proud to say we kill more pigs than, well, pig hepatitis. There's no secret to success, really. You have to have a passion for whatever you do. And then when he says that, it shows Luanne, and she like starts paying attention again because she locks in on him for some reason. And he goes, whether it's processing pigs or sheep or cattle into food and food products. She leans over to Peggy and goes, what's a food product? She goes, it's like food, but cheaper. He hears this and he kind of focuses in on Luanne. And to me, when you've got a little hindsight is 2020 going on here, this is the first time you see that he's a little nuts. You know?
Yeah. Also, he's voiced by Michael Keaton, and if you've ever seen any of his movies, he plays some nutso characters sometimes.
Oh, he definitely has played some nutso characters. Yeah, including Batman. His Batman is nuts. But he overhears this and he's like, young lady, you had a question? Luanne kind of stammers, and of course Peggy just picks up the rock and runs with it. She goes, yes, I find that I am too busy succeeding to keep track of all my ideas, so I keep them in a file. Well, that's not a question. He goes, well, that's actually more of a comment than a question. She says, well, thank you, I think so too. And that's the entire interaction she has with Trip. It's the stupidest thing ever because she does not listen to anybody. She just loves.
We got Jay Ham here.
Hey Jay.
What's up, boys? Still waiting on those stickers that I put my info in for. We got to get those stickers out. Yeah.
We are really bad at sending stickers. All right. Later after the lecture, they're having kind of a little reception in the back. You know, everybody's got a drink cup. He walks up to Luanne and he says, well, hello. Did you like my lecture? Did you enjoy it? I mean, did you enjoy it as much as I enjoyed having you at my lecture? She goes, I really like the part where you were excited about what you do. That's what I'm trying to find a career I'm passionate about, like waitressing at a steakhouse. He goes, you have that special, unspoiled quality, and something tells me that you do pretty darn well in pork. How'd you like to
unspoiled quality? That's such a weird way to say it.
And you do pretty well in pork. That is an odd phrase. He goes, how'd you like to interview for a position with the Larsen Pork Products? She goes, well, I did work with pork chops at my last job. Well, to be honest, sometimes I dropped a couple. He goes, well, see, that's the beauty of pork. It rinses off cleanly. We transfer to the Hill House. Hank kind of ducks as he comes in through the kitchen because Peggy's got a rubber spider hanging there. He comes in, he goes, oh, ice cream. Hey, what are you celebrating? And we see that Peggy is scooping out ice cream and giving it to Luanne. Peggy says, Trip Larsen is scheduling an interview with Luanne. She goes, I get to go to his house. I mean, she's so happy about this.
Yeah, it's kind of. I don't know if I'd want to go to that guy's house.
That's your second time you see he's a little weird. Hank says, I don't see why he has to see her at his house. You think he could be interested in something more than an interview? Peggy says, the pork industry is famously informal. That's how these things are done. You have no idea, Peggy, what the pork industry is like. You've never had any contact with anyone in the pork industry, Peggy. You have no friggin' clue. Hank looks at her and says, Luanne, sometimes men aren't interested in what they say they're interested in. To put it bluntly, they're more interested in something else. Well, that's a good job there, Hank. You tried real hard to get to what you meant. Luanne, she goes, oh, you mean sex? He goes, oh, no, and just like backs out of the room almost immediately. Then he kind of sticks his head back around and goes, yes. And then he leaves. That's it. He doesn't want to talk about sex with Luanne at all.
Not at all.
I don't think he ever wants to talk about sex.
I don't think he wants to talk about sex with his wife, let alone with Luanne.
Yeah. All right. So now we're at the Larsen estate. It's a big sprawling estate. We see that there are pigs, like golden pigs on the gates and stuff. There is smokestacks from the processing houses out there. You can see
it's kind of a weird looking place. Like,
it's a big old farm. Yeah.
But the funny thing is it reminds me of a very plantation style operation because his house is right next to the means of production. It's not like the factories over here, like owners don't live next door to their factories generally, unless you're Hershey, because he made a whole town. But
you have to think that all he does is smell the pigs cooking. I mean, that just has to be all that smells around there. And why have we never heard anything about the way this place smells? Arlen is so small that you would think, here in Waco, we have a poop processing plant, which gets to turn the poop over every once in a while. Boy, oh boy, can you smell it when they do. So I can't imagine a pig rendering facility wouldn't smell up into the neighborhoods in Arlen. So
yeah, that's probably disgusting.
All right, so we're at the Larsen estate, big old sprawling thing. Peg drives Luanne up to the estate. She lets her out right at the front. She gets out with her. We see Trip is out there, but he's working on a motorcycle right in front of his mansion. She gets out. She's in a pantsuit, which I've never seen her in a pantsuit. She says, "I'm here for my interview, Mr. Larsen." Peggy says, "I am also here for the interview." Well, that's okay. Trip says, "Luanne, why don't we go ballooning?" And of course, Luanne's like, "Oh." He goes, "Peggy, why don't you read my autobiography?" And he takes Luanne and just walks off.
Which his autobiography is called Whole Hog.
Whole Hog, yeah.
Thanks,
you see
Artie.
that in the next one.
Yeah, some Artie.
Yeah, Peggy's a little pissed. But in the next thing, we see that they are going up in the Larsen Pork Products air balloon with a big pig face on it. And Peggy is down at a picnic table reading Whole Hog. We see the balloon come up over the warehouse, and Peggy's down at the bottom on the ground. In the balloon, we see Luanne just kind of looking out at the sprawling view of Arlen. She goes, "Oh, it's all so beautiful. You can see for miles." He goes, "Yep, 3.7 miles. You can see up to around 8 miles if you try this monocular. It's Austrian. They make the best monocular." So a monocular is just a single side of a binocular, right?
Yeah.
It's like
it would be like in Texas, the more relatable would be spotting scope. It's just a one scope thing.
Yeah, it's just a single one. Yeah. He says, and who knew that the Austrians made the best ones? Luanne looks a little worried, and so he goes, "Something wrong?" She goes, "Well, it's just that, well, you know so much, and I know so little. I hope that doesn't make you think I'm stupid." He goes, "Oh, you're not stupid. You're ignorant." She turns around and she's pissed. She's like, "What? No, you can't." He goes, No. It's a compliment. That just means you haven't had the chance to learn all the wrong things." She goes, "Oh, no one's ever told me that before." Luanne, I don't care what he said. He just called you ignorant.
She's gullible, though.
He says, "Well, maybe that's because no one has ever realized how ignorant you truly are." I mean, what a way to pick up chicks, huh?
That's a wild one.
He grabs her and kisses her very deeply. Peggy sees it from the ground, and she's like, "Oh my Lord, what are you doing? This is not the proper way to interview." And she's right about that. Unfortunately, Peggy is right about a lot of stuff in this episode.
Yeah, that's not a very normal interview process.
It is not. All right, that's our first commercial break in Pigmalion. We're going to take that, and we'll be
right back.
Acme Joy makes top-of-the-line adult products, provides sex toys like male masturbators, penis pumps, cock rings, anal stimulators, realistic dildos, and sex dolls, etc. Founded in 2011, Acme Joy has long held the belief everyone deserves a better orgasm. Acme Joy prides itself on being able to satisfy a wide range of sexual needs and provide a greater variety of orgasms. It adheres to the idea that everyone deserves a better orgasm. Whether you want to experience surreal oral sex pleasure, true to slight intercourse, or even more intense anal stimulation, Acme Joy will always offer something beyond your imagination. Acme Joy's goal is to provide high-quality products at the optimal prices to every user, as well as superior customer service. Go to acmejoy.com.
Experience the future of secure private cloud storage with Internex. Protect your files with end-to-end encryption, ensuring your data stays private and accessible only to you. Enjoy seamless, fast storage without compromising security. Visit Internex.com today and take control of your digital life. That's INTERNXT.com today.
All right, and we are
back.
You
and
got
we're
it.
back.
All right, so we see all four of the guys in the alley. They're standing next to a jack-o'-lantern. Whoa, my camera went nuts. They're standing next to a jack-o'-lantern. So we are being hit over the head that it is Halloween. Every time we see somebody, there's a jack-o'-lantern sitting around. And this is, I believe, the only line we get from Dale. Whose house are we going to TP this year? Bill, of course, is like, oh, probably mine. I mean, every year they TP his house, apparently. Hank sees Peggy and Luanne drive up into the driveway. And so he's like, so how'd it go? Luanne gets out. She goes, oh, Mr. Trip Larsen is the most wonderful man in the whole world. He goes, oh, well, he gave you a job, huh? What position? And then you see a very pissed Peggy standing behind her. And she goes, oh, I'm his girlfriend. That is not what any of them wanted to hear.
Yeah, that's rough.
We're now at the dinner table in the Hill House. We've got in the kitchen, by the way, Bobby, Hank, Peggy, and Luanne. Hank starts off with, well, I knew this guy was no good, but braiding your hair from the back, your head looks like a horse's ass.
That's good.
That's
I like that one. I
Hank,
like that line.
honestly.
Yeah.
A little rough. And then Peg, she, of course, says, well, Trip likes my hair in braids. He says they make me look smart. Anything to make her look smart or seem smart, she will fall for it all day long.
She always falls for it. She likes to think she's smarter than she is, and anybody that like validates that is like always good for her. And Arthur says that Trip must be over 50 years old, so I imagine he's probably an older gentleman for sure.
Yeah. I think Peggy brings it up here in a minute, but yeah, he's definitely older than her. And so, of course, Peggy pipes in, Luanne, honey, it's not that we don't like your hair in braids, which we do not. It's that we don't like Trip. He's old enough to be your father, and he's treating you like a child. She goes, stop worrying, Aunt Peggy, and I'm going to eat my salad after my steak. Trip says that's the French way. I have never heard that in my life. Have you?
I've never heard of eating any salad before anything. Generally, even in French dining, your salad, soup, and all that comes first, and then you get your entree. So
that's a course, right? You know, I mean, if
like
they're serving multiple courses, that's one of them. Anyway, she goes, that Trip says that's the French way. Of course, Bobby, hearing this, thinks immediately of dessert. He says, so I can have my dessert first, then my steak, and then if I have room, my salad. Hank just looks up and goes, salad after steak. I hate to say this twice in one meal, but horse's ass.
Okay, actually, so I don't mean to interrupt you. Actually, there is a palate cleanser. So it would be the Ferme Auberge is how I guess you would say that. I don't speak French. But what they do is you eat the steak, and then after the steak, you eat a salad after the main course because it cleans your palate before you eat dessert or cheese. And they also believe that the fiber, see, I've never heard of this, but they also believe that the fiber in the salad aids with digestion after you eat a big, heavy meal. So after a steak, they would eat the salad to cleanse their palate for cheese or dessert after, which is kind of,
I guess that has
weird.
some validity, but you're also assuming that the human body is made up of just tubes. And like one goes down and clogs in the tube, then the other thing comes on the top of it and clogs in the tube. That's not really the way it works, you know, where the salad's just going to push everything through.
Yeah, no, definitely.
So I don't know about that. All right. So the next thing we see is Trip practicing tennis at his mansion. Peggy and Hank show up with a Brown Betty in hand, which nobody should be eating those Brown Betties. Peggy says, hello. Oh no, they're god awful. Hello, we were in the neighborhood and we thought you might like some of my Brown Betty. We can also discuss my Luanne. He goes, "Oh, hey, that's a good idea. Sounds fun. How would you like to watch some football bloopers while I finish my set? You know, they send us advertisers some of the stuff with, you don't see anywhere else." Hank's like, "Oh, I could take a look." And next thing we see is or Peggy says, "Hank, remember what we're here for." He goes, "But this is private bloopers. Hey, do you have that snowman who caught fire at the Vikings game?" He goes, "Do I? I've got 3 different snowmen catching fire." Next thing we see is Hank is in the library and he's watching these bloopers. I can't imagine trying to get Hank away from these stupid bloopers. You know, I mean, if you don't get to see him on regular TV, this is Hank. This is the best day Hank's had all week.
Which that's an actual thing that happened. So in the 1977 NFC Championship, it was the Vikings. I can't remember who they were playing, but it was the Vikings. There was a guy named Daniel Yoder who was in a snowman costume as a 24-year-old, and he accidentally set himself on fire. He bumped into a flaming can of liquid fuel that was being used by the girls selling hot chocolate in the stands to keep the hot chocolate warm, and he bumped into the fuel canister and ended up catching himself on fire.
So one of our chatters here, Mr. Leal, says, "I've always gone salad last," which, okay. And then I'm just going to say Edie because I don't know how else to pronounce it.
Sorry to interrupt you again. It was a Cowboys game. It was the championship game between the Cowboys and Vikings in 1970s.
Okay.
And he ended up panicking and running around, but 2 guys tackled him to the ground and like snuffed out the fire. So there you
God
go.
almighty. Edie says, "Nah, whiskey after steak, then dessert," which that's more American, definitely. And then Artie says about the bloopers, "You can have my niece if I can have this NFL blooper tape." That's about right. Yeah, that's about
pretty much.
Right.
That's his argument. Yeah.
Okay, so we see he's there watching these bloopers now, and he is enthralled in these friggin' bloopers. We see him watching TV, and then all of a sudden it just lights up, on his face, and he goes, "Oh, there he goes!" Like the guy just caught fire. The camera pulls back, and we see a very pissed Peggy sitting next to Hank. In comes Trip. "How's it going? Did Blanca set you up all right?" Peggy says, "I would like to talk to you about Luanne before we have to make a blooper reel out of her life." Hank says, "Well, we just wanted to make sure that Luanne isn't getting in any trouble. She is our only niece. He goes, "Hank, Luanne is lucky to have somebody like you looking out for her." He takes Hank over to the window. He kind of walks. You know that thing where like some big powerful guy grabs you by the shoulder and kind of walks you over to the window to look out while they're trying to bullshit you into believing whatever they're trying to have you swallow.
He's just trying to sell you a car that don't run. Yeah, that's what he's doing. Hey, you
He
see
takes
that
him
car
over-
out there? Yeah.
That's right. He takes him over to the window and they see a giant, and I mean giant hog.
A really big, huge.
This thing is just lumbering
massive
around.
thing.
It's like it's so heavy that its poor legs won't hold it, And Hank looks at it and goes, "Whoa, will you look at that?" He goes, "Yep, that's the J5. It's a little project I've been working on for quite some time now. In terms of time to processing, weight, meat, yield, weanability, she's pretty much the perfect pig." The pig then just falls down because it can't hold itself up anymore. And Hank says, "Oh, just like a baby. Look at her, Peggy. Reminds you of somebody when he was little." And Trip says, "Hank, how would you like to ride in a hot air balloon?" "Hey, I don't have to tell you, it's powered by propane." Hank just lights up. He says, "Well, that's one of the 8 uses of propane I haven't experienced firsthand." And Peggy's just like, "Oh, dear Lord." Artie wants us to know that J5 is voiced by J5. Yeah. Next, we see Hank in a hot air balloon, just a wind blowing through his hair. And he says, "Peggy, I feel like Neil Armstrong up here. I can see everybody's gutters, and they look great." And then we kind of pan down and we see that the balloon is still on the rope that holds it to the ground, and Trip is hanging on to that rope. He's talking to Peggy and he says, "Mrs. Hill, I'm a guy who makes his own rules. You play by them, everybody wins. Try to call your own game, not so terrific." And then he just kind of pulls on that rope, and we see the balloon just kind of, and Hank's like, "Oh, whoa. So he almost dumps Hank right out of the hot air balloon, but the guy knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
Peggy
He's a hot air balloon. And that's the funny thing is that the guy with the fuel thing and Hank and all that and propane, like he finds out what he could get Hank.
Oh,
with.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Massive.
Peggy looks at him with some resolve, And she says, well, let me tell you something. You might be rich, but all the money in the world cannot buy you the most precious gift of all, my respect. I don't know how precious that is, Peggy, but
I'm
okay.
not sure.
Whatever.
Yeah, we're not sure if we care about your respect, Peggy.
Edie says to preempt the pig later is like Godfather horse. Yes. Hank is too dumb not to understand the threat. Yeah. We'll get to that here in just a second, but you're absolutely right. Now we go to the Hill House. We're in the kitchen, and Peggy is talking to Hank. The man willfully endangered your life just to make a point, Hank. He goes, well, try to see it from his point of view. He was trying to control the balloon, and you kept talking to him. Dear Lord. Okay, Hank, that's good. He goes, I was right there. He was pulling and yanking that cord and trying to jerk you out of there with every last fiber of his being, and then some. Then Luanne speaks up. Aunt Peggy, Trip believes that no one ever solved anything with a run-on sentence. Man, that is the wrong way to approach Peggy, right there.
That is the wrong way to approach Peggy because, again, she is like she thinks she's smarter than everybody. She thinks she knows more about anything, and she thinks she's super educated. And then for ignorant Luanne to come in and say, "Hey, I don't think you know how to form a sentence." That's really
Peggy lights up real
shitty
quick.
Luanne.
Yeah, she pipes up real quick and she lets into Luanne. She says, what? How dare you? You do not come into my house and correct my grammar unless your name happens to be Strunk or White. Is it? She goes, I'm just trying to help you improve yourself, Aunt Heggie. She leaves and it goes through the door. They hear a knock on the door. They go.
Which it's funny. Don't mean to interrupt you again.
No, you're fine.
But Strunk, the Strunk, I was going to give everybody the reference. So there was a professor of English at Cornell University in the 40s and 30s. His name was William Strunk Jr. So he wrote a book called The Elements of Style, which became an influential guide to writing in the English language. So he had a former student named E.B. White. So Strunk and White was what it informally became known as, this book, The Elements of Style, which was from 1918. So that's why she said that. So that right there shows you that's a reference. That's like a really good reference for the writers. They have all probably, a lot of the guys that write this are college graduates for writing and things like that, and comedy writing and stuff. So that is like a really, really, I think it's a really good reference. But
it is a
like
good reference.
Writer's reference. Like not everybody's going to get it, but if you're a writer, you know what he's talking about, kind of thing.
It's a good reference. It's just hard to believe that Peggy knew it.
Yeah, it's crazy that it's hard to believe that Peggy knew it, but the fact that the writers included it, I thought was pretty a good little toss in there.
Probably just for them. Yeah,
it's probably just for that's what I said. It's probably just for the writers, because unless you are an English major or something like that, it's not going to be something that you just have. It's not a common knowledge kind of thing.
Artie says, who put a guest into a hot air balloon by themselves? I'm gonna come back at that, Artie, and say, who puts a guest in a hot air balloon? I mean, that period. Who owns a hot air balloon? And then Edie says, if she said it in Spanish, that Peggy would have slapped her. Probably so. Artie says, remember, Peggy knew Robert's rules when Hank did his filibuster. That's true. That's a very good reference. Thank you. All right. So they go to the door because they kind of hear a knock on it. They open the door, and there is a hog carcass out there with no head. And you see a Larsen Pig Products truck pull off. Peggy screams at the top of her lungs. And then we see the other three guys come around the corner. Bill looks at it and goes, this will cook up real nice, Hank. How much did it cost you, huh? $100? And Peggy looks at it and goes, Hank, this man is crazy. That headless pig is a threat. She's right. Hank says, no, it's a gift from Trip Larsen, and it's to you. He pulls a tag off. The tag, it's like a little Christmas tag or a toe tag almost. And it says, from Trip to Peggy. And he says, I guess somebody owes Trip an apology.
Here we go. Gotta go. I'm not rich, but here's a couple of quid. Thanks for the quids.
Edie. Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, thanks for the quid. The quid.
Thank you.
He gave us the old quid. Quid for the Americans who don't know is a slang term. It's like where we would say, let me get some of that, a buck, and that's a quid is the equivalent. But I was going to talk about the pig head thing real quick. I had a quip for it, a little
trivia. They're very right. That is like a Godfather thing.
It is a Godfather thing, but also pig head meat is called brawn, head cheese, or souse meat.
Okay.
But it's used to make cold cut soups or stocks. but the term brawn is a cold cut, and then it could be formed into a meat jelly. So you could make a meat jelly out of it. But they also have pickled head cheese and stuff like that. In Scotland, they make it like a jelly dish from pig's head and stuff like that, and they soak it and cook it with like vegetables. And then you've got the jowls, which could be cured and smoked, which is the cheekbone, the cheek meat. And then you have the ears, which you could fry or bake. And then you have the pig tongue, which you could eat. So really, I guess the way Hank sees it, and I imagine Hank is from Texas. Hill is a German surname. So I imagine that his heritage is probably German. And there's a lot of German barbecuing in Texas. Like Texas barbecue, a good chunk of it originates from German outdoor cooking. And that's like where we get a lot of that's what like the origins of Texas barbecue. So I could see Hank seeing this pig's head and thinking 10 different ways that he could do something with it, kind of thing.
Now, Artie took a little bit of a turn here. He says when he played rugby, they had a pig roast and they took turns drinking beer from the head.
Well, he is an adopted Hawaiian. I know he's not a Hawaiian by birth, but I know he spent a lot of time in Hawaii. And a big thing in Hawaii is pig meat. They eat a lot of pig.
Edie says that's good head. And then dropped the mic and left the room.
Yeah, ta-ta for now. Quid, boy. Quid
all
pro
right.
quo.
So she says this man's crazy. He goes, no, it's a gift. You owe him an apology. Peggy says, there is a large dead animal on my lawn. And Hank says, look, let's be reasonable about this. I work in propane, so I give away propane. Trip Larsen works with pork, so that's why he gave us this fella here. She hauls back and just kicks the pig as hard as she can, which had to hurt her big ass feet. And Bill falls down immediately, hugs the pig, and goes, oh, no, you're bruising the rinds. So Bill's real worried about this pig cooking. We now go to Luanne. She is inside, and she's hanging up a Larsen pork calendar. And this has like a picture of what do you call it? Oktoberfest kind of thing, right?
Yeah,
and Artie's right. Hank does not give away propane. That's absolutely
he doesn't.
True.
Well, we've never seen him give it away, which doesn't mean he doesn't. We just never seen him give it away. I imagine if, say, one of the guys bought a brand new propane grill, I could see Hank coming up and walking up with a propane tank saying, "I got you covered, buddy."
I think he would gift them, because I think he would pay for the propane at Strickland.
He would pay for it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It would be bought propane, but I could see him giving it away. Like he paid for it. And then
absolutely.
Gave it to
Sure. So now we've got Luanne inside. She's hanging up this calendar. And Peggy comes up behind her and goes, that's it, Luanne. I have decided that your boyfriend is crazy. Now do you want to break up with him or should I? She goes, now just stop it. And this is Luanne speaking. Stop telling me what to do. I am a proud, ignorant woman and no one is going to change that. Peggy says, now that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard anybody say. Luanne just starts bawling and she runs out of the room. Now we're back at the mansion and we see Luanne has made her way over there. She's on the fainting couch with Trip and she's crying into his chest. And when we hear Luanne cry, it's always like,
yeah, I mean, she's got a wild cry. Yeah.
Oh boy. He says, you wiped your eyes on my tie. That's okay. It's an amazing fabric. She goes, oh, thanks, Trip. I feel better. I'm going to go home now and think of something mean to do to Aunt Peggy. Okay. He says, Luanne, wow. You are home. I took the liberty of having your belongings meat trucked out here. Meat trucked. Forgive me if
now all of her belongings. Yeah. Forgive me if
they smell delicious. And they look out and you see a long light. This is like the 15th time that you realize this guy's nuts. They look out and they see a long line of pigs just in that killing trough, right? They're just headed to slaughter. And that is our second commercial break. We will take that and we'll be
right back.
Children's Dimetapp knows the sick day struggle is real. But it doesn't have to be. When sickness strikes, Children's Dimetapp works safely and quickly to relieve cough and other cold symptoms. And your kiddos won't run from its yuck-free sweet grape flavor. Trusted by parents for over 50 years, Children's Dymatap, your stress-less sick day solution. Use as directed.
Live from Radio City Music Hall, it's the SNL 50 Homecoming Concert, featuring performances by Arcade Fire, the B-52, Backstreet Boys, Bad Bunny, Bonnie Raitt, Brittany Howard, Brandi Carlile, Chris Martin, Dave Grohl, David Byrne, Devo, Eddie Vedder, Jack White, Jelly Roll, Lady Gaga, Miley Cyrus, Mumford & Sons, Post Malone, The Roots, and more. Celebrating 50 years of SNL music, February 14th at 8 p.m. Eastern. Catch it live on Peacock.
All right, and we are back. We're back.
And we're back.
And there's Rusty.
We're here.
We came back, and we are upstairs at the Trip Larsen mansion. And he goes, Luanne, dear, this will be your room. And he leads her into one of the big bedrooms there. And it's just like any old haunted house scary movie you've ever seen. It's that kind of room. You know, big, giant paintings on the wall of old dead people, 4 poster beds. You know, everything's gold leafed, that kind of stuff. She goes, it is so beautiful. And she's walking around. He's even brought the manger babies over. They're sitting on top of the dresser. She opens up one of the dresser drawers and goes, oh, I don't see any of my clothes. He goes, that's because I had them shredded. Plant mulch, gardening tips, synthetics make wonderful ground cover. She goes, but see, I need stuff to wear to dinner. He goes, oh, not a problem. And he opens a closet, and all you see are these white tops and blue skirts. We find out that this is basically a milkmaid's costume, right? That he's got multiples of hanging in her closet, and that is literally all he has in there. She goes, but they're all the same. He goes, well, nothing is exactly the same. Everything has a small flaw or imperfection. It drives me mad. And that is about the 45th time we see that this dude may be nuts. Now it's night. Luanne's in bed. She is not asleep. She's got her eyes wide open, and she's seeing shadows and hearing noises. She hears kind of a scraping. And so she gets up and she opens the door and she's looking out. She goes, Trip, is that you? And then she sees a hall. She goes down the hall. It's like, Trip, are you there? She opens the door and a giant hog comes running out. And kind of attacks her almost. He runs over and says, back off, girl. Don't be messing with Papa's lady now. You hear? And he wrestles that pig back to the room. He looks at Luanne, who is now on the floor because she got attacked by a giant hog. He goes, are you all right, dearest? She goes, why is there a pig in your house? He goes, oh, don't tell me you're jealous. She, again, 400th time, we find out the guy may be nuts. He asks if she's jealous of the pig. That's a big red flag.
That's a really big red flag.
She goes, I
got a funny story real fast.
Yeah, go for it.
One of my dad's cousins, we used to go visit them. They lived in a small rural town called Bremond. Yeah. And when we went to their house, they had a pet deer. So they had a house, like walking through, like a dog walked through the house and everything. Yeah. So they had this deer that I guess its mother had abandoned it or something like that, and they had raised the deer up from just like a tiny baby to an adult, or its mom got killed during deer season or whatever happened. Right. And they like bottle fed the deer and all that stuff. And they had a deer, and it was so foreign to me, the idea of seeing a deer. And it'd be like weird. It would be like a deer with a chicken on its back walking through the living room kind of thing. Yeah, they were country as hell. So they would have like chickens walking through the house and just weird shit like that.
Yeah, you're not supposed to put deer in your house. I don't think that's a thing.
I don't think you're supposed to have live chickens roaming and through your house either.
Well, the only other one I can think of where there's live chickens in is Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that their house
how that turned out
reeked like a farm on the inside of the house.
It did. Yeah, Artie says this is giving major House of Usher vibes, and he's absolutely right. It's that sort of, lightning, and you see shadows and giant paintings as big as 3 people and that kind of stuff. She goes, I might have grown up poor, but I never knew anyone who kept a pig in the house. He goes, well, that's because they weren't equipped for it. The floor in there is Brazilian rosewood, super hard, super high quality stuff. And I had it finished with 4 coats of polyurethane. Not that it needs it. The J5's hooves are soft as bedroom slippers. Then you hear the pig squeal from behind the door because he's locked it back in whatever closet it was in. And he goes, Schweigen, like real loud in German.
Means be silent in German.
Yeah, and that is the 500th time that we have found out that this guy is probably nuts. He looks at Luanne and goes, "Go back to bed, honey. I'll have Blanca bring you up a warm glass of milk, okay? Okay, and finish it all," he says. Which that's 501 right there.
That's pretty iffy.
If it was anybody else, I think they would have figured out this dude's nuts by now.
Yeah, absolutely.
But Luanne, not so much, All right, next day at the mansion, Luanne wakes up and she has red, which looks like blood all over her hands, all over the pillow. She kind of wakes up and freaks out and screams. He comes in and he goes, "Oh, good, you're up." She goes, "My head is bleeding." He goes, "Your head hasn't been harmed." And
it's been improved.
Yeah. He sits up and we see that she has totally red hair now. He
goes, she looks like
improved.
Wendy from Wendy's, the Wendy's commercial. Yeah.
Yeah. He goes, "I took the liberty." There you go, Artie. "I took the liberty of dyeing it while you were asleep these last 14 hours. 14 hours.
Yeah, he really put her out. He gave her the old Bill Cosby.
Yeah, Artie says he drugged the milk, and that it can't be anything other than that. Yeah, so he got the milk drugged. He goes, "I took the liberty of dyeing it while you were asleep these last 14 hours." She goes, "But why? I don't want red hair." He goes, "Oh, you don't like it? Okay, well, we can always shave it off and wait for it to regrow." And she's like, "Oh, God, no." She's already been through that. So she doesn't want to shave her head again,
Yeah.
And he goes, "Oh, good, then it's settled." Well, nothing's really settled, but okay. Nighttime at the mansion now. We see a maid pushing a cart down the hall. That is Blanca. And Luanne is out in the hall and she goes, "Blanca, I'm going to go all the way downstairs to practice my harp like Mr. Larsen wanted me to." It's not what she's doing at all. Blanca does not give a shit. Blanca keeps going. By the way, Luanne is still dressed like a milkmaid because that's all she has, but now she has red hair and a milkmaid's costume. She sees keys hanging out of a door and she goes up to it and unlocks it and goes in. It is kind of this library thing, but in the middle of the room, there's a glass case with a magazine under the glass case, like you would see in Luanne playing harp, Artie. Yeah, that's right. I love that that's the only time it's ever mentioned, is that he wanted her to play harp. But she sees this magazine on display, kind of like it were a valuable piece of jewelry or something, or an art exhibit, that kind of thing. She looks at the magazine and it is an ad for Larsen's pork products. And it's got a woman with red hair and a milkmaid costume.
He looks just like Luanne. Yeah.
A guy with a squeeze box type accordion and a pig. And they look very much like they're up in the Alps or someplace like that, and it's very, very German looking. Yeah. He says 1940s Life magazine ad vibe. Yes, you're absolutely right. Very close to that. She goes, "Oh, it's me." And then he pops up from the back of a chair. So he's in this locked room before she goes in. He pops up and goes, "Except for the teeth." She's like, he goes, "But that can be taken care of." This is probably 506 or so of the times that we think he's nuts.
Yeah, that's definitely an indicator that you probably should not be in that.
Yeah, you need to get out.
It's time to
get out. Yeah. She looks at him and goes, "Are you trying to turn me into her?" He goes, "This is the Larsen Porks product girl my grandfather created 50 years ago. Her picture graced the walls of my nursery. Mother never really paid me much attention, but she was always there. All I wrote out to beside this is big time nuts." And then Luanne says, "I'm very sorry about your mother. Now I'm going home." So she understands now's about the time she needs to get the hell out of there.
She definitely understands now.
Artie says there should have been a quote in there that says, "I took the liberty of replacing your teeth."
Yikes. Now that one would have been a little much.
He looks at her and he goes, "Oh, please don't go. I spent so many years trying to find you. I mean, look at her. He's pointing at the magazine. The Larsen Pork's product woman is as comfortable dining with kings as she is slaughtering pigs. I never thought I'd meet someone as perfect as a woman in that picture. And then I saw you at the Learning Annex. Number one, a big old bell should go off that Peggy did this to her.
Yeah, it's pretty rough.
Peggy is the cause of this entire thing.
I agree. I think she's the one at fault here.
Peggy is the cause of the ending of this show as well, by the way. Peggy should be arrested for manslaughter. So
at the very least,
he says, I saw you at the Learning Annex. She goes, I guess I'm just here. I'm so alone here. I get scared. He goes, I understand. And I mean to fix all of that with a big Halloween party to show the world just how happy we are. She goes, oh, can I dress up like a pirate? He goes, a woman is a pirate? Well, that's just crazy. How about you just wear this? And he pulls out another one of those outfits, another one of the Alpine,
the very German thing,
yeah, very German,
Bavarian.
Yes, and Artie, I did notice that at the top of the magazine, across from the ad for the Larsens, it's a picture of Dwight D. Eisenhower. So that tells you how old this magazine is.
The 50s, yeah.
Yeah. Next, we see the Hill House, and they are Peggy and Hank are having lunch. They're eating big old sandwiches. And they are in the kitchen at that table facing the sliding glass doors. And Hank's going through the mail and he goes, hey, it's an invitation. Larsen Pork Products and the Dance Theater of Ireland invite you to a Halloween gala. Oh, that sounds like a blast. That is not what I would think Hank would think. I don't think he would think it's a blast. That just sounds weird coming out of Hank.
I think he said that because of the idea of the whole pork product thing.
Yeah, maybe so. Maybe so. Peggy, of course, well, I know Luanne doesn't want to see me, but I am a silver slipper donor to the Dance Theater of Ireland, and those people still owe me an umbrella. So
they're the first time that we've heard that.
Yeah. She's a silver slipper donor.
Yeah, she never mentions that.
There's no way Hank's allowing her to give money to the friggin' dance troupe. But okay, whatever.
Well, it must be her own money.
So next thing, it's a Halloween party at the mansion, the big pig killing mansion. And we see Hank and Peggy walk up. And all I can think of is Grease. Like they're dressed like a couple of characters from Grease.
They're dressed like greasers, yeah.
But
Hank's
the thing
got the cigarette rolled up in his sleeve.
But the thing about Hank, that's the only thing that's different. Other than that, he's still got a white shirt and jeans on. That's it.
Yeah, it's just a cigarette pack. That's it. Yeah.
They walk up and he goes, oh, great. It's Luanne. I bet she can tell us where the bathroom is. Peggy's like, is that all you care about, the bathroom? What about Luanne? He goes, I can't enjoy a party until I know where the bathroom is. You knew that when you married me. I mean, that's a hell of a rule right there. They go up to Luanne and Luanne says, hi, Peggy, Uncle Hank. Really glad you could come. She goes, you look nice, Luanne. She goes, I know. Trip told me. I'm the Larsen Pork Products girl. Hank goes, oh, you see, Peggy, I could have come as a Strickland propane guy instead of us renting this get up. So they rented this. They rented their clothing for this thing, and he is
just a pack of cigarettes,
exactly like he normally is. Yeah, could have just got it from Dale and been done.
That would have been easier.
Blanca comes by and she says, Mister is ready for you now. She goes, oh, this is Blanca. She's my best friend here. And then it comes real close on Blanca's face, and Blanca's just like, nah. She looks very mean. She looks very angry. Okay, so she takes Luanne to the mansion, takes her into the room with the magazine that's on display, and she's in there. She thinks by herself. She goes, Trip. He pops up in the back and he goes, I'm here, dearest Luanne. You've never looked more beautiful. We see him. He's dressed like a pig.
Yep.
He's got a snout on, the whole thing. Artie says he probably rented a pack of smokes from Dale. That's
very
about right.
Creepy looking man.
But he's dressed, he's got a cape with a big Elvis type collar on it, but then he's dressed like a pig the whole way. So I'm not real sure about the cape and the collar.
I'm not sure about that either. I didn't get that part.
Well, it's not in the ad. You know, you would think that he wanted it to look exactly like the ad. It's not in it. So. Anyway, he goes, and I've never felt more alive. I never thought this day would come when I would have everything I've ever wanted within my grasp. And he pulls out a big old pigula. That's really good, Artie. I like it. He pulls out a big engagement ring and shows it to her. And she goes, oh, is that an engagement ring? He goes, wait, Luanne, I want everything to be perfect. And he gets down on his knees and he goes, Luanne, will you do me the great honor of marrying him? And he points over to the side and she goes, him? She looks over And there's a guy that looks just like the guy in the ad. He's dressed like this alpine teen
with the lederhosen on.
He's got the lederhosen. He's got the squeeze box, the whole thing. Yeah. And he goes, Javier, the time has come. And this guy steps out of the shadows and he's just standing there. And Luanne goes, that's the man in the ad. The only line you get out of Javier is, life is a series of compromises, which I thought was just very funny.
Yeah, I like that. I thought that was a good line.
She looks back at Trip and goes, Trip, I'm kind of confused. What is happening here? He goes, don't you see? We can have it all. We can be the family in the picture. You, him, and me. And then he points over there and he just looks at the pig. He wants to be the pig in that ad, which is so friggin' weird. She goes, wait, what? Yeah. What? She kind of runs out. He runs after. He goes, Luanne, wait, Luanne. He chases her out. He sees Peggy as Luanne runs by. He sees Peggy and he goes up to her and goes, where did Luanne go? She goes, that's for me to know and you to find out, and me to find out too, because I don't know. What? Why did you even say anything, Peggy? Just say no. I don't know.
Just say no.
So he runs after her. Peggy's running after him. He's Luanne. She's Luanne. They go into a warehouse. Or Luanne does. She goes into a warehouse. She puts a barrel in front of the door. Trip goes up to it. He's trying to get in. He can't get in. Then he crawls up the ladder on the side of the building, goes to the roof, ends up falling down an air vent into the warehouse with her. And he goes, wait, I can explain everything. She goes, no, you're sick. I'm calling the police. And by the way, she's got hog carcasses just all around him. Artie just had a really good, that's Batman. It's Batman. It's Pigman. That's exactly what it is with Michael Keaton. It's Pigman.
He does kind of look like Batman climbing up the ladder.
He looks kind of like Pigman. Yeah. Then he runs after her. She's like, I'm calling the police. He goes, Luanne, you're not thinking clearly. They both get up on a conveyor belt. Not sure why. And then Peggy shows up. She goes, I'm here, Luanne. I'll take care of everything. And she just kicks the door open with her big ass feet. What he couldn't open, she just kicked open with her giant size 56s or whatever she's got. Yeah, he says climbing up the ladder is Batman. That's exactly right. So she kicks it open. She comes in. She goes straight over to the levers and the buttons that control the killing mechanism. We find out this is the control or the conveyor belt. There's an electrocution thing up there with a little zzz, that kind of thing in the middle.
Zapper.
We see a big giant bolt that just goes ka-kunk, ka-kunk, ka-kunk over and over that stabs the pigs in the head. So they are on the conveyor belt, and this is the killing line that we saw earlier.
Conveyor belt of death.
Artie changed what I said. He said size 16 on one foot, 16 and a half on the other. That's exactly right. That's Peggy's Feet. Peggy'sFeet.com. So she's in there pulling levers and pushing buttons, and she goes, oops, and she pulled the wrong one. And then the conveyor belt speeds up. So now they're going faster towards their certain death. And he looks at it and goes, oh, this is perfect. Now we can become Larsen Pork Products together. He goes, Luanne, trust me, this is for the best. And he grabs her. He goes, we agreed that I would do the thinking for both of us. She pushes him away. She goes, I never agreed to be a Larsen Pork Product. She jumps off onto one of the hanging carcasses on the side of the conveyor belt. He stays on. He goes, Luanne, I thought you loved me. She goes, no, Trip. And then the pig that she's hanging on falls to the ground. She runs over to the levers and the buttons, and she's trying to help. And he goes, pull the left lever now. And Peggy pushes her way in and goes, let me do it. And then the kill bolt starts. Ka-kunk, 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 ka-kunk. And then we see the electrocution thing happening. And he just looks up at the ceiling and goes, Mama, Papa, I'm coming home. And then the bolts, I guess, of electricity come out. They hit him in the head, knock him down. He gets back up and goes, oh, my God. I can suddenly think clearly. The voices have left my head. What am I doing in a pig costume? He turns around, he looks at the bolt, and he goes, oh, uh-oh. And then you just hear ka-kunk, ka-kunk, ka-kunk. And then you hear it go through him, which is, it's rough, man. It's a rough way to die.
Yeah, he is death number 6 in the series. He's the 6th person.
Fantastic. That's great.
Yeah.
he gets killed by his own he gets hoisted by his own petard, as it were. And Luanne screams, and then she looks at Peggy and goes, well, at least Trip seemed happy, and now he's in a better place. She goes, and this is the first thing I agree with Peggy on in this whole show. She goes, honey,
yeah, she's
Trip
very lucid. Yeah.
He goes, honey, Trip had a mental breakdown. He's now a sausage. That is not a better place, but you handled the situation very well. She goes, oh, I did, didn't I? She goes, you saved yourself by thinking for yourself. She goes, I did, didn't I? Very ironic that she's telling her what she thinks, and she's telling her how independent she is. She goes, you are your own woman. She goes, I am. So really, it's a happy ending. And Peggy looks at her and goes,
happy enough.
Happy enough. Yep.
It was very dark. Yeah, that's
we get
very
our credits,
dark
and
ending.
then we hear a pig squeal after the credits, and we hear Schweigen, and that's it.
Yeah, as somebody who's worked in food production facilities, I haven't worked in a pig production facility, but somebody who's worked in food production facilities, that equipment, if it's powered up and it's on, it can do a lot of damage to a human being. So,
oh yeah,
remember to lock out, tag out, everybody.
By the way, if you go to peggysfeet.com right now, you're going to get to something bad. Do not go there, please.
Yeah, please don't.
You're probably going to get a virus of some kind. But that is it for us. That is season 7, episode 9 or 5, ABE 23, Pigmalion. Originally aired January 12th, 2003.
Yep.
Good episode. But what I was telling them while you were taking the call, Rusty, was this is an okay episode for me.
It's not almost like a super good episode.
Well, it's almost exactly the same as the cult episode when you think about it.
Yeah, it's similar. It's very similar to it. The overall theme. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's the same kind of thing, except Peggy doesn't get pulled in. Peggy does kill this man, though.
This guy died, if at the very least, manslaughter. But again, you could almost call it. There's probably a self-defense argument as well. So.
By the way, you brought up that we were on TV. I want Artie to know that he had a big part on the TV when we were on there the other day too. By the way,
we mentioned
you a lot, Artie, and talked about how great you are and the fact that you're a pivotal part of the show now. So they loved it. He does say #never convicted though. That's very timely. Very nice. Thank you guys for joining us. We always appreciate when you're here. We appreciate everything you do for us, and every time you come and see us. Thanks for joining us on the live. If you
I posted the link down below, so the link is in the chat if y'all want to go check it out there.
Oh yeah, if you that's for when we were on TV the other day. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
By the way, if you are listening to this or you're watching it later, just remember it's in the thing now, Artie. Just remember that we record usually or we go live usually on a Saturday or Sunday. Normally it's a Sunday at about 11 a.m.
Yep.
And that way we can kind of keep a schedule with you guys. This week, Mason was out of town. And so we decided to do it a little early. Plus Super Bowl's tomorrow. We can kind of kick back and not have to worry about anything. But we appreciate all of you. Artie, you're number one on that list.
Yeah, thanks for watching.
Thank you guys so much. We really
and
appreciate
listening.
it. You want to tell them where else they can find us?
Yeah, you can find us at BWAAAKOTH, and that's on all social medias. You can go to youtube.com/@BWAAAKOTH. Make sure to subscribe, like, follow, tell your friends.
Yeah. That's the way to do it. Also, check out the other stuff at roguemedianetwork.com. We appreciate you being here and listening, and we will see you again next time. I think there's really only one thing left to say.
And that would be a Wimatanye.
Wimatanye indeed.
This has been a Rogue Media Network production.